Are you a venue owner feeling completely trapped? Your operational costs keep rising, but your client budget is staying the same and if not shrinking. Or maybe it's because your calendar's full, your weekends are gone, you're overworked, but your cash flow is still fragile. Well, I'm here to tell you you're not alone, and it's not because you're mismanaging business. I've built and scaled two of my own venues here in Atlanta, and since then I've started OMG Rentals, which is the largest online community of venue owners. I've had over 1,500 clients to help them scale their venues past six figures in 60 days. And 2025 wasn't just a slow season and it wasn't just bad luck. It's a real and worsening profitability squeeze that we're seeing across the industry. So, in this video, I'm going to break down the five core reasons that's happening to you and what you can do to fix it. First, we're going to start with just what's going on macroeconomically and how those headwinds are impacting your venue. Next, we'll break down what's going on in the food, bev, and the AV cost crisis. Then we're going to explain why independent venues are under a specific and growing threat. And lastly, we're going to expose the pricing and budgeting mistakes that I'm seeing across the industry that are quietly just making that problem so much worse. So at the end, you'll understand exactly why, even if you have a full calendar, why it doesn't guarantee any profit and where to look so you can start actually fixing that issue. Great.
Right.
So
So
let's
let's
get
get
into
into
it.
it.
These are the five reasons your venue's busier than ever, but you're making less profit, and why full calendars just don't mean profit margin anymore. So,
So
if
if
this
this
is
is
you,
you,
you're busy, you're booked, but you're still broke, I want to talk to you about the calendar paradox and how just because a full calendar or calendar doesn't mean you're actually making money. The cost crunch, which is how operating expenses are climbing, and just across the board, we're seeing client budgets shrink, and the vanishing act, which is where your cash flow statements leaving you asking, where did all my profit go? The five forces that we're seeing at play across the industry are macroeconomic pressures. So the AV and food and bev margins are collapsing. We're seeing a crisis with independent venues themselves and how it's becoming a situation where they have to tread water, budget and cash flow failures. So internal blind spots that are actually impacting your bottom line. And lastly, just pricing opacity. So there's a lost trust, which is poisoning your client relationships. So these are the five things that we want to talk about on this in this presentation. So really, the point number one is that costs are rising faster than budgets. Right? We see this in the economy where you've probably seen it on the news with salaries are not rising at the same pace as inflation, and that's just across the board. So even in I guess that's wrong. I had that supposed to be 2025, but planners were expecting to increase in 2025. Um, budget growth illusion. So even 20% larger budgets, just it doesn't even matter because since cost has rose, you just can't buy as much as you used to, right? And your operational costs are actually outpacing any price increases that you can justify. So that's the first macroeconomic trend that's just hurting everyone is inflation. Second point here is that this has a huge impact for the mid market for event venues. These are your independent venues. Uh, you know, rent, insurance, staffing, everything that you're paying for, you're just getting squeezed out of your profit. So really what we're seeing is the low end of the markets dropping out, like your middle tier clients that used to be able to help fill your bookings, and maybe you would take a price cut on one Saturday here or there. You're just not getting as many as those as you used to be able to. Uh, Ultimately, all it is uh, yeah, they're getting priced out. So without pressure, uh, you know, what we're seeing is just diminishing returns. And you got to fight harder for clients who objectively just have less to spend. Uh, all along the time, your overhead's just exploding, so cost increasing. And really, those old profit centers that you used to turn to, that's where we're seeing costs get hit the most. So food and bev, it's harder to make margins there. Caterers, everything else, average industry like standard there is like 30%. Just no longer anymore as the costs have increased by 25%. AV alone too, you're seeing production costs soar because of labor, especially. This is all driven whether it's from the union labor, rigging requirements, compounding service charges, etc. So those line items that used to help you carry pretty healthy margins are now just simply throwing flowing through your P&L. Yeah, if you increased your pricing by 40%, you're just going to kill your flow and you're not going to be able to, it's not sustainable. And really all it's doing is just stripping away your margin. So venue owners feel in this position where they're just trapped because they can't increase prices. And it really is just a race to zero, right? Like it's becoming this idea of how do I just stay alive and tread water instead of how do I actually make this thing work. So most people I've talked to in 2025 might feel like they're bad at business, but when they're actually just feeling trapped from vendor economics and not knowing what to do in order to escape that. So, like I said, for independent event venues, this is really leading to what they feel as survival mode. Just this year, 64% of independent venues failed to actually turn a profit. So, like I said, you are not alone. Yeah. Here are the two backstops that I used to save, which you're failing at. So, ticket collapsing, revenue crushed by resellers, consolidation, and monopolistic platforms. So, and bar revenues being down. So the consumer habits are shifting. Two things here is, if you're using promoters, you're killing your cost. Like those people who are filling your venues and used to be very beneficial to you, those middlemen are now on kind of on the opposite hand, where sure it's helpful for having others come fill your venue, but you're also losing a ton of revenue here. And then lastly, like bar revenue is going down. What's happening there is just a consumer shift. Kids these days, like the younger demographics, aren't drinking as much as they used to. It could be because of the inflation and like the cost of alcohol, but it is just kind of, I think it's both a stigma as well as just cost. But it's definitely something to be aware of because it's not something you can lean on to help increase your margins. Quick note here, I do have a free tool in the description for you who want to map out your income and expenses and just create a plan to how you can actually successfully get past that 10K a month mark with your venues. This tool is in the description below. Also, it's in the free school community OMG Rentals. So it'll help you spot gaps months in advance instead of feeling like you're always in panic mode. So feel free to grab that tool. Back to it. Yeah. So other external pains here, and then just an internal blind spot that's also impacting you is you got invisible cost. Expenses are underestimated and never centrally tracked in a system. That's killing you. No buffer zone, missing 10 to 20% contingency buffer for market volatility and surprises. So essentially just having cash on hand, saving up a stockpile just in case, a bad month or two happens. And seasonal blindness is a huge one too. You need to stop pricing standardly across all seasons. Not all seasons are the same. Venues are a seasonal business. You're going to have more demand in Christmas time than you will in February. It's just how it is. So make sure you guys are actually forecasting. Again, that spreadsheet linked below will help. But yeah, make sure you're changing your prices so that you can optimize and collect as much revenue as you can for certain events at certain times. Another thing is just the defense mechanism that we're seeing is killing trust. You got to stop asking what's your budget. That's a horrible answer because it feels like a trap to the people who are coming. They want standardized pricing, they want transparency, they want trust. That's just a huge thing. That's why reviews on Amazon are so big. It's kind of just the age old dad where if you go on Amazon, you're going to buy the toothbrush with 500 5-star reviews, not the one with two 5-star reviews. So very similar here. People want social proof. So I'm not saying put your pricing online and scare them away. Always collect customer information and contacts so that you can reach out to them directly and schedule them on a tour where you present the pricing. Um, but you know, you want to walk them through, um, and you want to handle all the objections prior to hitting the pricing point. So you want to make sure it's a good fit. You want to make sure that, it's what they're looking for, how many people, food, bev, whatever it is, right? Like you want to ask them all the qualifying questions, make sure they don't have any questions that they can object to you. so that when you bring up pricing, the only objection will be around pricing, right? It's not going to be around parking. It's not going to be around AV. Um, yeah. So don't ask what's your budget. Kind of present the options to them in packaging. That way you're not really negotiating with them. Packaging is going to help you get past that negotiation phase, uh, because otherwise it just feels like you're going to charge them whatever you think they can afford. But having some standardized pricing is really going to help that. And it's also going to raise your average order value while protecting your margin because you're just protecting this trust that you're delivering at that during your sales process. So just to recap here, even if you have a full calendar, here's why it's not saving you. One, inflation. You have rising fixed cost, operating expenses compound way faster than your revenue's growing, right? We're seeing a collapse in margin from across your AV and the food and bev. Just again, that's another inflation thing. Food and bev is the cost for food and bev is getting more expensive. You can't quite pass that cost on to the consumer as you could have. So we just got to look for other profitable add-ons, table chairs, linens, decor, balloons, things like that, where you're going to be able to squeeze way more margin. And for the food and bev AV side, you can just add that towards your premium package instead of in your core, just because you're not being able to maximize your revenue from it. Survival crisis, independent venues are just under this existential threat because the middle market's falling out because of all the inflation and in the economy right now. So while you're scrambling for uh, more leads, you don't actually need more leads. You truly just need a better offer, something that's hard to say no to and something that fits all their needs. Your cash flow failures are impacting your budgets, right? Not having a system to clearly keep costs tracked, if you're hiring bartenders or third party staffing, being able to, as entrepreneurs, we all have optimism out the gate. Sometimes we think, I'll just neglect this for a little bit and it'll grow. I'll build it and it'll grow. That's not the process. It does not work that way. As much as I wish it did, because I've been burnt in the past by it, it doesn't. So track everything. Be religious about like get rid of cost. What you don't need, you don't need. Do not buy more things. Focus on your offer until you're at 10K a month. Once you're past 10K a month, then you have a traffic problem. Which brings me to the last point is pricing opacity. The way that the sales funnel and flows are working, we're just seeing so many venues erode client trust and relationships when as a venue, that is your entire business, customer service. That is it, right? And so we're trying to have optimal customer service. We're trying to have incredible reviews. We're trying to have trust and transparency. And we're trying to build that community because um, that's how you get repeat customers. And that's just how you do good business. Cool. So here's how I would go ahead and start fixing some of these. One, just download that free template I have below in the description. Join the school community. Reach out to me. Let me know you want it. I'll shoot it over to you. But what you should be doing is building on the exact system you have, but really working on your offer so it seems like a no-brainer and getting ahead of this crisis before it becomes emergency. So budgeting and making no-brainer offers and building community and building trust.